Between the rise of the Kimrog Empire and the tumultuous Demon Wars, there was an enigmatic era. A time when brave souls traversed oceans and continents in search of glory, riches, and power. Let us tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to High Adventure Season 2. The cast is here, and another familiar face from the channel. You guys spent your day together, reunited in the city of Sassalem on the island of Kamamep, and you met your brother Cade's new friends. You met Humphrey, you met Riff, although actually you didn't meet Riff in person. You met him over a mind link, which is fine. The other person that you meet is Durant, and your brother Cade told you that Durant is a holy man. He possesses magic, he possesses knowledge, and he has a, let's say, an intellectual curiosity that drives him. Durant, you, in the morning, meet up with the brothers Zhen. You join them on their walk to the harbor, as they have, Cade previously, with the help of Captain Elysia, was able to negotiate for them to go to Amron. And the ship captain, Captain Bjorn, who is in the employ of House Eriksson, House Eriksson being one of the noble houses that makes up the Crown, which is the ruling body of the island of Kamamep. Captain Bjorn's almost done loading his ship. He basically told you that if you guys wanted to go, they're leaving. If you decide you don't want to go to Amron today, you'll probably have to wait another week because there aren't a lot of boats that go there. So, did you decide if you wanted to go to Amron?
Brothers, I think we should go and see if Father's there. We could
I think we should as well.
perhaps see.
And it might shed light to sister's whereabouts. Maybe our ability
Yes, we could find.
ability to censor maybe gets stronger when we get closer to Amron.
Yes, perhaps we can find more clues.
Okay. So, the group of you get on the ship, and it's not a huge ship. It's smaller than a caravel. So you get on board, and Captain Bjorn and his crew begin to sail out of the harbor. And as you are now sailing out at dawn, essentially in the morning, there's a cool breeze coming in from the east off the ocean. It's a pretty clear day. Sun's up in the sky, coming up in the sky to the east, and you begin sailing. As you are navigating north, you see to your west, you pass along the coastline further north, and it occurs to you that, and you've seen a map by this point, that Kamamep is a pretty large island, especially compared to an island like Tizia. And you're making your way north for a while. And at a certain point, maybe about 2 hours into the journey, you kind of are now just out in the open waters. You see kind of off behind you to your left, the northern end of Kamamep, and inland from the northern coast, you see some mountains. And about another hour after that, as you're just out in the open ocean, you do see another ship, and it's, again, not a big ship, but you see a ship kind of coming towards the direction that you guys are going. And as this ship is sighted, you notice that Captain Bjorn yells up to the crow's nest, and you see the crew member up there pull out a spyglass, and it's kind of like looking out into the water towards the oncoming ship. And then he turns and he just gives a thumbs up to the captain, and the captain he nods. And you notice that he has like almost like a look of relief on his face, as if maybe he was anticipating something bad was going to happen.
As Durant, can I take a look and see if I can spot anything about this ship? Being that Durant would probably have some curiosity about this.
Yes. What would you like to use?
Probably perception and history, I guess. Even though I don't really have history.
So
maybe...
in other words, you're waiting till it's a little closer within your natural vision.
Yeah, and I want to get a sense of like what the flags mean if I have gathered that knowledge.
Okay. As it gets, I at first I thought you were like trying to like spatial magic the ship, but you wait.
No.
And sure enough, when it's a few hundred yards away, you start to see the flags waving, and it gets closer, and you see there's markings on the bow, and you see the symbol of Kamamep, which is a crown with 5 points, and each point has a different colored gem. So they pass by. It looks like they're maybe going towards Sassalem from somewhere else. And you even see like a couple crew members on each ship to kind of give like a casual wave as they pass each other. But Captain Bjorn continues sailing north towards your destination. Another, let's say, 2 hours goes by, and you are hitting some rough water, which gives you the impression that maybe now you're in deeper waters. And the boat's moving quite a bit, but it's at a point where the captain has to kind of sail west and then cut back a little bit east just to kind of handle navigating the waves. So you're kind of going back and forth basically along that route. As you cut west, and you see he's going west for quite some ways, and then he'll cut north a little bit and then go west more. You see that you see like land is in sight, and another hour goes by, and you are approaching the island, which you think you're maybe approaching it from the eastern side. And he sails further in, and you come to a small harbor. And by small, I mean, it looks like maybe 2 ships could anchor in this harbor. And then there's like about 6 docks where you see some fishing boats. So it is not large by any stretch. And as you approach this harbor, you see that there is a village just kind of, a few hundred yards in from the harbor. And you see mostly 1- and 2-story buildings. There isn't even like a wall around this village or even a palisade. You notice like closer to the docks, there's a few long wooden buildings which you assume are maybe like warehouses, and then a few paths that go up towards the village. So once he gets to the harbor, and it's late afternoon by this point, it's like 4 o'clock. Once he gets to the harbor, he drops anchor, and you see that 2 of the crew members start lowering this rowboat, and they row to the docks, and you see them, they're speaking with some official looking person who's on the docks and, exchanging paperwork. And then you see a crew of laborers start to get these longboats and start rowing back to the boat. And at that point, Captain Bjorn says, well, we'll be here for a couple hours unloading this cargo. He says, but you could take the next rowboat onto land if you'd like. that'll get you to where you need to go. He says that's the village of Amron. He says there's another village on the island to the west as well, but this is our first stop. He says, so if you want to stay here, go check it out, you can. He says, I'll be here for a few more hours, and then
What is the name of the city to the west? Or
the
town?
village to the west is the village of Drak.
Drunk.
And that's spelled D-R-A-H-Q.
Should we go ahead.
Can you point out the harbor master to me? Just show me which
Bjorn points
one
to
he
the
is.
man that you saw the crew talking with earlier.
I take a mental picture of him and keep him stored in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Should
So-
go.
So basically Bjorn tells you he's going to be here for a couple hours unloading, and then his crew, most of his crew will go to shore, and they'll get like rooms at an inn and have some dinner, and then the next morning he's going to take the rest of the cargo to the village of Drak. So if you wanted to go there, you could. But basically, you guys can get off and go into the village of Amron ahead of him if you want.
Should we find the local magistrate? Maybe he could give us information.
Sure. Absolutely. So you do. You get off when there's an available rowboat, and you row to the docks. You climb up this ladder, and you see groups of workers that are unloading rowboats full of cargo crates from Bjorn's ship and taking them to a warehouse that's right there. The harbor master is literally in like the equivalent of like a shed, like a Home Depot shed. You know what I mean? It's like a one-room wooden shed that's like right by the docks and the path that leads up to the village. You go over by his shed. He has like a desk with a stack of papers and a ledger book, and there's like a little oil lantern for light. Did you want to speak to him directly, or did you want to just go up to the village?
Am I leading this, or is Shao taking?
I'm just
charge?
asking all of you if you.
I'm talking to my brothers. I'm asking them too.
Yeah,
We
let's
are
get
new
as
to
much
this.
information as we can.
We are new to this part of the world, brother. Please lead the way.
All right. Let's go.
All right, so you walk up the path. And as I said, the village is not huge. There's maybe 60 buildings. Most of them are single-story, like cottages that look like people live there. There's, a few two-story homes, and there's like 2 inns with taverns. There's a few shops, simple shops, but not a whole lot of. Compared to the city of Sassalem, this is just a meager village. It's probably the same size as your village on Tizia.
Do they have a shrine of any sort?
They do. It is a humble, single-story building. It does not have a fancy domed roof. It is painted white, which you seem to see as a consistent thing.
Okay, Durant will go there.
I follow Durant.
Okay. You head to this shrine. The doors are unlocked, so you open the door. It has a similar configuration to larger shrines where everything, like the center of the building is this open worship space, and then kind of all around in sort of a hexagonal pattern. You see, some very basic depictions of the gods. You see a few places for offerings, and you actually don't see anybody like worshiping or doing anything, but you do see a priest who looks like he's kind of cleaning up. And when you guys go in, he sees you and he says, he turns and he's like, welcome.
Welcome, brother. Is there a symbol of Savak Boku in this space?
There is not.
Okay.
I'll tell you which of these gods are venerated. You see a depiction of Peshwick. You see a depiction of Shias Joel. You see a depiction of Yasik Hogue. And you see a depiction of Shao Omoon.
Okay. And you said there are areas for donations?
There's like a wooden lockbox for donations. There's also like a little table which has like offering things. So you can make a donation and take some grain to make an offering to Peshwick. There's candles, and there's like these little vials of oil that you can make donations to into the water vessel for Shias Joel.
Okay. So I guess specifically, I'm looking at what I have on me. Did I happen to grab any of the jewels that we seem to have an ample supply of?
Sure, I'll say that you have some of those.
All right, whatever the smallest, cheapest gem is, I will deposit on one of the offering tables.
Okay. The priest is caught off guard by this, and he's like, "Thank you. That is very generous of you. Truly. Are you new to the village?"
We are but travelers passing through, looking for information, I believe.
Well, if I may be of assistance in any way, please let us know.
I'm going to not so subtly gesture to the symbol on my shield.
He looks at it, and he says, "Oh my, forgive me, brother. I did not recognize you are an adept of an acolyte of Savak Boku."
I am.
I
choose not to wear the traditional garb, though.
I see. Yes. What may I help you with, brother? Are you in need of access to our library? It is humble, I must forewarn you.
Yes, I would appreciate access to your library, and if you can answer questions for my friend here, and I'll gesture to Shao.
Let's go ahead and make a perception plus social manipulation roll, all of you guys.
Oh, all of us. Perception and social manipulation.
Let's just see.
Perception. So I get 3 dice.
5.
That would be a 9.
Damn.
Same
I
here.
rolled an 8.
11.
Really low.
You get the feeling that perhaps there aren't a lot of Sacurans on this island, because he's like kind of looking at the 3 brothers like curiously.
Oh, all brothers are there with Durant?
I just assumed that you guys weren't splitting the party, so I've decided that you're all together because that makes things flow better.
Yeah. Okay.
So he just like he's listening to you, Durant, but every once in a while you see him like kind of look over at them and kind of awkwardly smile, and then you gesture about answering questions, and he's like, yes, of course. Well, how may I help you?
And while they're answering their questions, I'll go inspect their library that's here.
Okay. So he looks to the brothers and he says, "How may I help you?"
You want to take the lead on this, Shao? Or
Ooh,
Cho?
I'll let Cho do it. I think he's got better manipulation skills than I do to get information.
We are seeking information about the holdings of the Zhen family.
The Zhen family.
Meta, what's father's name?
Lu Wei.
Pa? No.
Lu Wei.
Lu Wei.
Lu Wei?
Luwe, yeah.
He says, well, I doubt that we would have any records of land holdings, but it most likely, if you were seeking those things, you would likely find them amidst probably in Drak. That's the seat of House Draka is in the village of Drak. They probably would have that sort of information, like land holdings, mining claims, historical things. He says our library tends to focus more on the religious connotations, and we do have some books of history, but mostly religious books is what we would have.
Have you? Okay.
He says,
Go ahead.
I'm not familiar with that name, so I'm not certain if that family is from the village of Amron or has any farmland or otherwise around Amron, but certainly there's much of the island that I'm not familiar with, and that information would likely be found amidst the contents of the village of Drak.
Can I, with the way that he perceived us and his, like, did he feel like standoffish or anything like that? And have I, like, I sensed his,
Any negativity?
You notice you notice he was speaking slowly and clearly to you at first, but then once you started to talk, then he
Picked it up.
knew that you basically could speak his language, then he kind of seemed to be normal.
okay.
But
So
you didn't detect like a negative thing.
okay.
No racial tension for
What I
Sacurans?
No.
perceive,
No suspicion or racial tension.
No lightweight
more just
racism.
like you rolled high enough. It's just more like the curiosity of maybe not seeing Sacurans.
okay, so that's my perception, is that he completely does not or has not seen any Sacurans ever at all. So that's a question I would pose to him. I would say that, have you seen any of our kind here before on this island?
He says, I have not. We're a small village. He says, but it's an honor. I've heard of Sacurans, but I've not seen any. So you're most welcome here. I'm not familiar with your gods or your practices, but we venerate. We are an open temple, shrine. So you may worship your gods here if you desire. He's like, I would be curious to know more about them.
Could I ask to look through the library?
You guys are like, we'd be more curious to know about them too, Bill. Get to work.
I know. But I want to ask the priest if I could look through the library. I'm trying to search on information on the tiers.
Oh yes. Well, wait. Do you specifically say that, or are you asking him if you could just use the library?
I want to use the library.
Oh yes, of course. Right this way. He leads you over to like the back of the building, and there's a short hallway that opens up into a humble room, like 15 by 15.
Yeah,
and there's like
not that
3
big.
bookshelves and a table and some like candles. Durant, you went back there before the rest of the gang. Shortly before the rest of the gang. What are you looking to research there?
I'm looking to research the gods, to see what kind of information they have. I'm also looking for information on if there have been like any surveys of this island, and I guess I'm looking to see if there are any like artifacts that are contained in the record.
I apologize. Break that down into smaller components.
Okay, so I guess let me put this in order of importance to Durant so you can decide. Number one would be any sort of artifacts that are on record. Number two would be any sort of surveys of the island or the region in general.
Okay.
And I guess number three would be any additional information on the gods to help fill in gaps for Durant's knowledge.
Okay. So let's do. So you're searching through some stuff. Go ahead and do a perception plus history roll. And because their library is not particularly strong, you're going to need to hit at least a 12.
Well, that's a 16, Bill.
Well done. Well done. So, you find what looks like an older copy of a book that is from the kingdom of Zuephis in Arakazine.
Okay.
Okay, so Durant, you find this older copy of the Book of the Gods, and it looks like it was authored in the kingdom of Zuephis. You see that it gives some of the histories of the gods. It goes through some of the domains of the gods, and it also talks about venerating the gods. There's a lot of emphasis on some of the gods that you've already come to learn about. Yasik Hogue, the goddess Peshwick, the god Shias Joel, Shao Omun. You do find a little bit about Savak Boku. And what you find in this interesting tidbit, because of your success of your role, is that many of the kingdoms in Arakazine owe some debt to the knowledge gleaned from the priests of Savak Boku, with knowledge being a principal thing that is attributed to Savak Boku and the acolytes of Savak Boku. It seems like, as you're kind of skimming through these histories, that the devotees to Savak Boku are in many ways not just religious acolytes, but lore keepers, with a focus on preserving information and preserving lore. You also find an interesting side note where there's speculation about Savak Boku's relationship to the gods. And in one instance, Savak Boku is referred to as a brother of the earth goddess Peshwick. And in another story, he is referred to as her uncle. You then read a little bit more about a couple other gods. And I'm not sure if you've learned about these gods, so I will just tell you. One of them is a male god known as Zeshuf, which is spelled Xeshuf. Zeshuf is a god of war, a god of death and battle and chaos. Often thought of as the spirit of chaos and battle, his manifestation coming through with those who devote themselves to him with the blessings of frenzy and the call of the berserker. These are all references to the god of war. His followers are almost always some kind of fighter, whether that be trained soldiers or barbarians. And the idea of embracing the spirit of Zeshuf in battle is basically embracing the chaos of battle and giving away strategy or planning. Being caught up in the frenzy of battle. If killing or dying happens in the midst of Zeshuf's blessing, it is considered a pure and honorable death. The last of these deities that you learn about in this book is a god that's worshipped in the Midlands, known as Mzoph Upai, and that is Mzoph-Upi. This divinity is somewhat mysterious. You discover that this divinity is not attributed with a specific gender, and in some stories appears as a male, in others as a female, and sometimes young, sometimes old, seemingly kind of with this shifting identity. But Mzoph Upai is often venerated by those who are involved in activities which can be considered subtle, or trickery, or sneakery, secrecy, deception, those kind of things. Whether that be gamblers or thieves, Mzoph Upai is sort of a mysterious, shifting figure. And you find this interesting as you read about this in this religious book. You have never seen a depiction in any shrine or temple that you've visited so far in this world of this god. Now, to be clear, the book that you are reading was authored in Zuephais, which is the southern of the two kingdoms in the Midlands of Arakazine. So you have not encountered or seen any depictions to this god, actually, or to Zeshuf, while you've been in Nisia.
Is there a location associated with Zeshuf?
In a broad sense, the battlefield, basically.
Okay.
Zeshuf, the spirit of Zeshuf manifests in battle. And as I mentioned, with each of these, they talk about different ways to venerate these gods, offerings. There's a lot of repetition about the importance of gratitude for the blessings of the gods and showing your faith through different kinds of practices and venerations and sacrifices and gifts to the gods. Those are all things that that are kind of with each one of these gods or with these divinities that is repeatedly mentioned, that it's important to, just as you ask from the gods, so too should you give to the gods. And there are even some tales where the prayers of people were not answered because they had not devoted themselves enough, or had venerated, or had sacrificed enough to the gods. So you
And
get
is
this
this
impression
shared knowledge, or is Durant keeping it all to himself?
Well, so this would be, he would have started this before you guys walked in, but then you guys walk in with the priest and he's kind of continuing to read. So this does take some time, because you're reading through this book and you're kind of, picking out information as you're doing that. So you brothers arrive in this small back room. You see Durant reading this book at a table. The priest then looks to you and he says, "Forgive me, what was it that you were specifically hoping to find out about?"
The tears.
Yes. He says, "I am not familiar with that term. Is that a Sacuran thing?"
I've heard them also called godstones.
Godstones. He says, "I wonder if you're
Tears of the
Perhaps-
gods.
are you..." He says, I may have something regarding that. It's very... There's a mythological story here. Where is that book? It's not something that I commonly refer to because it's considered questionable as to whether it actually occurred. He's looking around. He's like, yes. He pulls a book off the top shelf and it's covered in dust. He blows the dust off and he opens it up and he starts looking through. And, a few minutes later, he finds some stuff and he starts to share with you that there's, in the mythology of the world, that there were celestial beings who were created by the gods to serve the gods, and that they lived in a place called Eos. And your interpretation is that Eos is some kind of heaven, because it's not quite clear whether Eos is part of this world or above it, whether it's actually connected or just spiritually connected, you're not sure. But that these celestial beings that were created by the gods, there were three types of them. There were the Kai, the Kapu, and the Lan.
Kai, Kaku, how do you spell that, please?
Ki, Kapu, Kapu, and the Lan, Lan. The Kai were basically considered the most loyal, the most devoted
Got it.
to the gods. They protected, they were the protectors, basically. The Kapu were considered the intellectuals amongst the gods, those who created things to please the gods. And those things could have been creatures, mountains, waterfalls. Just, they basically brought the gods ideas to create the world. And then as the world evolved, they created more things. And sometimes the gods would send them to create things. Sometimes the Kapu would come up with ideas and the gods would create those things. And the Lan were those most closely associated with things in the world to create balance. sometimes the things that they made were good things. Sometimes they made things to
They're
balance out
associated with what? Say that one more time, Bill.
to things to create balance. So sometimes if there were maybe too many of a certain kind of animal, it was the duty of the Lan to create something else to eat that animal. Or if there was too many of a certain types of plant, it was the duty of the Lan to create a wildfire that would burn away some of those plants. So their activities could be kind or cruel, depending on the circumstances. So at a certain point in the mythology,
Mhm.
the Lan decided that what the gods had created on Kikapulan was somehow better than Eos. And the Lan desired to be like the gods. And on the world, they could be, because basically they were celestial, they were angels, they had powers of creation.
Okay.
But the gods didn't like this, and so that began the God Wars. The Lan were clever because they deceived some of the gods.
God Wars.
They told the gods falsehoods about other gods. They basically got the gods to fight against each other.
They stirred up some shit.
Yes. And then by proxy, they created wars between the worshippers of the different gods to vie for power.
Oh shit.
And when the gods discovered all of these machinations of the Lan, they were angry. And then the Celestials fought against each other, and their minions fought against each other. And no one knows, there's no sense of timing here, because this is all mythology. No one knows how long ago this was, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is that for some time these god wars raged. And that maybe there were gods, there were a lot more gods. And some of those gods died during the god wars. But however and whoever was involved, at the end, the gods banished the Lan from Eos.
I'm wondering if there are any stories, mythological or otherwise, of connections between the god of death and famous killers over the years.
Hold that thought. When the gods banished the Lan to Eos, the Lan were angry. But more importantly, the gods were sad, because basically they banished their children. They banished one of their first creations. And when the Lan were expelled from Eos, the gods wept. And when the gods' tears fell to the earth, they took on many forms, and they retained some of the essence of the gods. Sometimes these tears manifested as crystals, elemental crystals. And other times, they took other forms, like orbs.
Okay.
Is any of this being said aloud?
I'm sharing the information.
I think that the priest is speaking out loud, as
Yeah,
I'm
so
assuming, right?
He basically,
So he just reading.
basically got this book down. He was reading through it, and then he gave you like a sermon. He basically.
He read us a bedtime story.
Yeah, he basically gave you like the lore, and he's paging through the book as he explained it. He's summarized all of this stuff for you.
So Durant is going to look at the priest, and he's going to say, "I have metal on."
What?
I have met Alon.
You have met Alon?
It's that dude on the island. I know what you're talking about.
He smiles. He's like, you jest. That is funny.
I have met Alon.
He says,
I did not like.
You cannot meet Alon. They do not take physical form. They are celestials.
This one was contained within a specific area as punishment for the things that he had done.
He is looking at you like you just sprouted 2 extra heads. But as he's looking at you, and as he made a successful perception plus social manipulation roll, he's like, you're not lying, are you?
No.
Just got a stone cold face of being 100% truthful.
His expression deeply changes. He says, I have heard of acolytes of Sabak Boku possessing insights and knowledge, but I, in my entire life, have never even heard of something.
Now, to be clear, Durant is not.
What you just said.
Durant is not going to let slip that, we released Alon from his prison. We will I'll leave that part out. What I will say is that I did not like the Alon. He sought to manipulate and control.
He says, brother, may I ask, did you encounter this Lon in your homeland of Zarach?
No. This Lon I met far afield. I joined an expedition to an island and was keeper of their lore for a time, and that is where I encountered the Lon.
He nods. You should also make a perception plus social manipulation roll.
Oh goody, that's a total of 4 dice. Let's see how that goes.
Actually, perception plus history roll.
Oh, perception plus history. That's 7 dice. That's much better. 9, 11, 14.
Okay. This is now the second time that someone has assumed that you are from this place called Zarach.
Yes, I'm clocking that.
I'm just, Durant is aware of this.
Durant is aware of this and has no idea where Zarach is in this world. Eventually, he's hoping that his research will take him to a place with such knowledge. But he also can't socially say, hey, tell me about this Zarach place that I should know everything about.
Very good. You could just say you were born somewhere else. Meta. That's meta.
Yeah, it's meta and it's not in Durant's head, so.
Yeah.
He says, well, this has been enlightening for me, perhaps even more so than the meager wisdom that I was able to share with all of you. But if you don't have any further questions, I was intending to close up the shrine for the night and go have some supper.
I want to put a gold coin in the coffer as a thanks.
He says, thank you. That is extremely generous. You have all been so generous. I can't even begin to tell you. For a humble village and shrine, your offerings have been deeply, deeply appreciated. He says, if you would like to take some time in the shrine and make offerings and prayers, please, by all means. I'll just finish tidying up here before I close up.
Yeah, Durant will take advantage of that and do his prayers in the shrine.
I'm finished. I'm not gonna do anything.
I don't even know what or to who to pray. I mean, I'm a monk, but I don't have any kind of lineage anywhere as far as I know. But I do like to reach out to Durant and, pick his brain regarding what we just learned, and if we can somehow manipulate the information, and him saying that, finding out that he had interaction with the lawn and all that stuff, and see if his abilities with our current abilities that we know of can help us perhaps maybe reach out to Father and to further along our understanding of the area through historical, religious, whatever means possible.
Okay.
And is there some type of like a Dewey Decimal System here? Is there some type of a lookup, a way to look stuff up that I specifically want to know?
So in meta, you wouldn't know this. And actually Durant wouldn't even know this because he's never been to a proper Tower of Savak Boku. But the acolytes of Savak Boku basically are librarians. They have a system for managing all of their libraries. But normal shrines and temples typically have some kind of library, but it's usually not hyper organized. It's, kind of sort of books are put together like with like, but not in any real specific organized way.
Now here's a question. What if Durant, as part of his prayers, wants to reorganize their library? Is that a thing that he could do?
You mean in devotion to Savak Boku?
Yeah, like
Could.
Maybe he doesn't know the system, but he sort of reaches out.
I mean, it would take a chunk of time. Like, you'd have to take some time to do that.
I don't think the time is available, but
We can make time happen for you. How much time do you need?
Maybe a few hours.
Would that be sufficient, Bill? I mean, can I with my temporal ability?
You want to stop time in the shrine so that he can do this?
Yes.
You do not quite have enough to do that. So with your ability, you could make him faster. You could grant him a lot more actions for an extended period of time if you roll high enough.
Okay.
In theory, you can basically grant him the ability to move much faster for a significant amount of time.
Okay, how do I
would cut the actual time down quite a bit for him to organize the library.
What would I need to do to make that happen? It sounds like he's needing to do this, so I would.
Right. So you would be basically making the target, instead of making the target you would be making the target Durant.
Correct.
And then at the minimum, it's going to be 5 qua. So what you're going to do is make your willpower plus magic roll. And depending on how many steps over you are for success, is how long and how fast he'll be able to do this.
Well, I got rolled at 18.
Okay, so 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. That's 5 steps over. That's a lot. So you can shift 2, 3. So the amount of additional actions can go to 3, and you can do that for 4 hours. That's about right.
So I get into a meditative stance and I just look at Durant, and then my eyes go white. And then I project onto Durant.
Did you tell Durant that you were doing that?
No.
So Durant is sitting in front of the bookshelf, and he pulls down a book and he moves it to another spot. And he's doing this sorting of the books, and he doesn't realize he's going fast. He's just doing it.
Yes.
And so you guys watch as Durant is he starts off at a normal human speed, and then all of a sudden it's
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
Yeah.
And 3 times faster than normal human speed. Fortunately, the priest is out tidying up. But you guys still have to sit there or figure out a way to get the priest out of the building to let Durant do his work for the next 4 hours.
I have an idea.
Okay.
I need to do some mental exploring. First thing I wanted to do, until you brought that up, actually, I'll deal with the keeper first. But first thing I thought about was, is there a way for me to attach myself to Durant's mind with his permission and see what he sees and absorb the knowledge that he's absorbing?
Yes.
I believe that's called
let's tackle one at a time. I'm going to go into a meditative state.
Okay.
And attempt to reach into the bookkeeper's mind.
Okay. So that's basically mind control. That would basically be so go ahead and make your roll, willpower plus magic.
21.
Okay, so it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 qua instead of 6. And yeah, you easily are in his mind. Now what?
I'm going to plant an idea, if I may.
Yes.
I am going to tell him, without using my voice, because I don't want him to put 2 and 2 together, I'm going to plant the image of his home is on fire. And he has to get to it now. I mean,
Okay.
There's no time to stop and see what we're doing. You
Okay.
gotta go.
He goes. Immediately.
And once he's out of the building, then I go into Durant's mind. I'll do the qua and stuff, and say, may I accompany you on this expedition of knowledge?
Okay, I mean, I'll allow it.
Okay,
I won't
so
resist.
since he is not resisting, you don't have to overcome his willpower, but you do need to minus off. Well, so how long do you want to do this for?
Until the knowledge becomes so overwhelming that my mind doesn't want any more of it.
All right, so go ahead and make.
So 5 minutes.
3 seconds.
Well, go ahead and make another roll. And it's not so much about succeeding as it is about how many degrees of success you have, because that'll determine whether or not you're spending.
23.
Damn.
Okay. So for 4 qua, you can be connected to Durant for another 8 hours if you so desire. So you now have, so just mechanically, so you understand how this works, you have 2 simultaneously concentrated effects going on, right? You can do up to 4 simultaneous concentrated magical spells because that's your willpower. So you have the mind control link right now with the priest, and you've split your mind, and another part of it is perceiving Durant's mental warehouse.
And I'll keep it at that, because this power scares me still at this point, and I don't know what I'm doing or what I'm capable of doing.
Okay. All right. So you were able, as Durant's going through and organizing this library, you see a lot of different information. He is focusing on categorizing things. You see that he's organizing things by, history versus religion, and then sub-organizing them based on other topics and categories. You're getting flashes of his mind as he sees a book and what he thinks about when he sees that book. So you're picking up a lot of the knowledge that he's gathered about the gods of Kikapulan. You're also picking up flashes of comparisons between Savak Boku and Denir. And you see several times in his mindscape that he thinks about Denir, and you see a symbol of a candle, like a lit candle, like representing knowledge. And then you also see another symbol of 3 mountains with a sun, an eye, and a moon over each of the 3 mountains. And you see like a waterfall coming down from the central mountain and turning into a river, almost like you're looking at a painting. And you're seeing this flash in his mind as it goes between that symbol of Savak Boku and this symbol of Denir.
Taking special care to make note of the god that is the shifting god. I don't remember the name. The one that was more kind of tricky and obscure and shifting in and out of
Yes.
Its form, and the god of death, to see if there's any history of famous assassins or famous guilds. Or
bear in mind, he's not reading every book, and the knowledge that he just gained about Muzof Upai is the extent of what's in this humble library. So you get the impression that Durant seeks knowledge because there's more out there. There's a lot more knowledge out there. You are getting abbreviated glimpses of the knowledge that he's gained so far about the gods that he's learned about so far, but it seems like there's much more out there. You do, both of you, Durant and by proxy Cho, you do at one point come across a book that details some of the history of the Kemrog Empire. You learn about the Kemrog's origins, which seem to be like this mysterious island continent called Kem, and that their civilization began exploring Kikapulan and going from continent to continent and region to region, and essentially conquering everything that they came across. And from the books that you're looking at, there aren't dates in these books because these are, again, this is a very humble library. But you get the impression that this began several thousand years ago, and that the Kemrog invaded Arakazine and Borea. They invaded another, you're not sure if it's a continent or an island, called Chodar. They then tried to invade Sacura, and that invasion ultimately failed. There's something about then a human uprising in Arakazine, a revolt against the Kemrog occupation. And then at a certain point, the Kemrog left Borea. However, that part is very vague. It doesn't say why they left Borea. It doesn't cite a revolt from the Borean people. It just says that the Kemrog left Borea. There's a reference to the Union of Arakazine and the formation of the Dominion. That's it.
At some point, I'm going to say Durant let slip that we freed the lawn. It's just kind of a passing glimpse in what's going through his
just to
mind.
the brothers.
Just to Cho, because Cho is the only one
Oh.
asking
Oh, right.
or connected.
Okay, so I'm gonna blue book this. Basically, Durant, you spend 4 hours instead of 8 hours because you're at hyperspeed. Well, let's say 3 hours. You spend 3 hours doing what would take probably pretty much most of a day, and you completely organize this humble library. At certain points throughout that interval, Cho, you have had to revisit your mind control to the priest because when he got to his house and found it wasn't on fire, he was confused. And then he was worried that he forgot to lock up the temple, so he was heading back. So you plant this idea in his head that he already cleaned up at the temple and already locked everything up, and that he should just go home and have some soup and go to bed. So he does that. And basically, by the time all this is done, it's about 8 o'clock at night. You guys have organized the temple library and cleaned it up. Very briefly, what would Cade and Shao Zhen have been doing for a few hours while the other two were engaged in temple things?
Did I have to be in my state to keep him at that level of speed, or could I be like, here's this, like a spell, here you go, and I can walk out? So I had to physically.
You're absolutely concentrating on maintaining that over the time.
Sure, I'm with Durant.
You could do that. You could do that, and still do 2 more magical effects if you wanted to, right?
Okay. So it's not limiting me to be like sitting still and concentrating on him to allow him to happen. I can do other things. Okay, I got it.
You can do other things because your willpower is 3, right? So you can maintain up to 3 spells simultaneously.
Okay, all right. It's me being in the area. Do I see anything with Arakazine or anything like that? Any knowledge stuff that I can be occupying myself and learning myself? Maybe perhaps being a monk, any kind of relationships to what I've learned as a monk under my monkly things that I can get better or evolve with knowledge base wise. Is there anything like that, or this is primarily religious?
I'll say that in this library you don't find that the term monk isn't really used. There's references to acolytes, which seem to be people who commit their lives to venerating and serving the gods, and you get that they are holy men of a kind, like some kind of holy person.
Okay.
You do gather that the closest thing, at least from the culture of Arakazine, to a monk would be an acolyte of Savak Boku. But what you find curious is that none of them have any martial arts training. It doesn't seem like that's a thing in their culture. They're more focused on honing their minds. But what you find amusing and different from Sacuran culture is that they don't seem to focus on the connection between mind and body.
Would me associating Savak Boku now to my personal understanding of what I've learned, can I make an offering in that aspect and see if there's a connection that I can reestablish? Because I felt that in my time and my ability to dismiss my monkhood training and stuff like that, do I have a sense I want to like reconnect at some point, and would this make that connection happen?
No. I'll say so as a matter of study, you do have some abilities with religion. I'm going to have you make a willpower plus religion roll.
2, 5.
Because you're kind of like meditating on this knowledge and trying to decide if this would be helpful to you. 14. Okay. You think about this, and it occurs to you that you're, if you were to start devoting yourself to one of these divine entities of Arakazine, that it might not help you in any way, because your focus so far has been from your culture and what you've learned about uniting and balancing your mind and your body. Just like you find a balance between logic and passion, right? That all throughout your life, the greatest challenges that you've had have been achieving that balance, because oftentimes part of your soul is drawn into your passions more than your logic, right? More than good decisions. So many times when you've fallen to your vices, you've given in to your own passions, when perhaps a clearer head and a calmer mind would have created a balance, and thus better decisions, better judgments, rather than giving into your emotions, into your feelings. Not to say that emotions and feelings are bad, but that you have studied finding the balance. That is your path. Now, in terms of a religious sense, the celestial bureaucracy of Sacura is vast. There are, of course, major figures in Sacuran religious beliefs, but there's an intrinsic tie into the culture with everything. From, natural spirits tied to nature, to the elements, to actual personifications of divine powers. Like the Jade Emperor is basically the ruler of the heavens in Sacuran mythology. But there are birds, there are dragons, there are every kind of mythological thing that exists in your culture is also tied into that religious significance. Just like things of nature are believed to also be linked to the spiritual world. But you don't feel like how the Arakazine culture perceives their gods is in balance with how you already understand the world.
Okay. I'm still in thought about that mind link that we had with the brothers. I'm still really having a hard time figuring out why we couldn't connect with sister. And after, I guess, the event with Durant and organization and all that stuff, I feel that I need to get him to help me make sense of what has happened on previous events. So I reach over to Brother Cho and I say, I need your help. I need to enlighten Durant of our previous pasts. And what something that's always bothered me is that ring. And I need him to see if he can see anything that we are missing with his knowledge and religion to kind of offset this balance of not knowing anything about that ring. Because even though the ring that we felt was only of water breathing, it feels like there's a deeper connection to that ring with something else. And it feels like either religious to me or spiritual. So I think Durant's expertise would really, really benefit. And we're in a temple, and maybe it would amplify him. I don't know. I mean, that's something I'd say to him.
As I'm absorbing all this knowledge from inside Durant's mind, my fear is that the information goes both ways. So I'm going to create a compartment for all of my chameleon shit and put it in a lockbox so no one can see that part of my mind. Okay. And while I'm in here, as we come to the end of the knowledge absorption, I will share things with Durant from my mind, from our journey. I will share with him the shipwreck. I will share with him the ring that I found and the cargo that I found that ultimately I put back because we felt it would rock the boat at the time. We didn't want to stir anything up as we were on the first leg of our journey. And I will say that mentally to Durant that I believe that this ring is somehow connected with our little sister, and we have been unable to find her. And I don't know what Cade has already shared with him. So I want to show him like a mental reel of just a playback of the highlights of the journey.
Okay. So in summary, Durant, you are then given the knowledge of the brothers Zhen, that which is a lengthy thing. But to summarize, their father, Luigi Zhen, had made an investment in this burgeoning, developing new region called Nisia. And through his connections with a very powerful noble house, the Osari clan, that he had purchased land and a manor, as well as a mining claim on this island of Amron. He sent his sons and his wife and daughter to this land, and that along the way, before they arrived, they were attacked by some enormous Leviathan-type creature, which seemed to be controlled by a Karsh, a aquatic humanoid race. Their ship was wrecked, they washed up, but prior to that, while exploring around the ship, Shao had discovered this chest, and inside of the chest was this ring, this magical ring.
Okay.
Did not exactly know what exactly it was.
And he had seen he had seen that the ring was with the sister when she was taken away.
Yeah, that's right. I would have seen that through the mind link.
In the other time.
Yeah, through what Cade shared. Yeah.
Right.
So
Now,
so this
something
is a different perspective of the same events.
Something that you found interesting, though, Durant, is that ring looked like it was made of the same dull gray metal as the circular emblem that you guys found with the waypoint.
Okay, and I believe we've come across a few other artifacts of the same, like the one that was used by the Lan to escape the imprisonment. I think that was also made of the same metal.
Yes.
And we found another disc just recently
in the wine shop.
Yeah. Okay,
so the fact that the ring was made of that metal is something you find interesting.
Is the memory clear enough that I could try and read the inscriptions on the ring?
So Shao's memory is clear enough because he's the one who originally found the ring in this chest. And to be clear, Shao, Cho. Cho, when you found that, you may recall that chest was in cargo, but it was the property of Captain Fu, who was the captain on the Celestial Queen, the ship that you guys took to Nisia. Whether it was his actual property, you're not sure, or whether he was just perhaps a courier of this, you don't know. You guys never actually directly, if I'm not mistaken, you never actually asked him about that. So yeah, Durant.
We didn't quite get to that before we were attacked.
That's true. So Durant, in seeing this through Cho's eyes, who beheld this ring directly when he picked the lock and found this, you don't see any writing on the ring, but you see some symbols on the ring.
Okay, and do they correspond with any symbols that I've sort of come across over my time?
They correspond with some of the symbols that you took rubbings of in the cave. In the last chamber of the cave, you remember how there were the niches?
Yep.
And there were 5 niches. And one of those niches was Busey, the water goddess.
And this is not we haven't had references to Busey as a water god outside of this temple, right? Because all the other temples,
Yes, outside of the cave, in any other places you've visited, you have never seen any references to Ayuk, Deepa, Busey, Vem, or Taik.
Right, but so we've seen like Shia's Joel and stuff like that. The other gods. Yeah, got it. Okay. Okay, sorry to derail there. What other symbols do I make out?
You saw one symbol that you recognized, which is similar to something that was part of the writing around the pedestal of the statue of Busey in the cave.
Okay.
You think that symbol is related to the element of water.
Tell me, did this ring have any significance with water?
He's asking Cho. He's asking you guys.
I don't think we know, do we?
Yeah, we knew that it was a water-breathing ring.
I think someone attuned to it. Attuned to it.
Oh. Yes, we believe that it was a water-breathing ring.
Does anybody have any ability to project through time?
Brother Shao does.
Perhaps Shao could help and pull a manifestation of this ring forward.
Can I bring him in?
Hold that thought. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So what you're positing is that maybe you could go back in time and grab the ring and bring it to you now in the present?
Yeah.
But wait, Meta. What if that was used to safely allow our sister to breathe when she was taken?
Yeah, good question. But also, my answer is, could you do that with the right combination of magic types? Yes. Do you guys have the right combination of magic types at the right level of power currently?
Yes.
No.
Damn it.
Well, maybe just
not have. Unless I'm mistaken, nobody has spatial magic 4 or temporal magic 4.
No, but I have Mark of Rebirth. That would
aid Mark of Rebirth all day long, bro. That's not going to bend reality.
Hey, man, I'm trying here.
Not powerful.
No, I mean, you're thinking right, but this is what I mean. Mechanically speaking, you could think about that, but you would come to the realization that you do not have high enough levels of spatial magic to locate the physical location of the ship prior to the shipwreck, and then the temporal magic to go back in time, grab the ring, and pull it into the presence. Could you do that if you had high enough spatial and temporal magic? Yes. But then there's also Cho's point, would that upset the timeline? And
Or we could
potentially
just
have
pull it.
impacts.
We could
that-
pull it from the past after.
I
Then,
Or-
but still, either way, you'd have to find it with spatial magic,
No,
and then you'd
No,
have to
for
have
sure.
high enough temporal magic.
and that was
to get it.
that was something I
Alternatively,
was.
the thought from Durant was more like, could we like get a better vision to inspect this with? Like, could we have
Well, I
better
wanted to-
visibility?
I had
um,
wanted to
of the
pose this
ring.
question. I wanted to pose this question because we were trying to search for our sister through the combined magics yesterday of all our other allies. I was thinking maybe we could do the same thing, but instead of looking for sister, look for the ring, and then we could, if we could find the location of that, we'll have a clue.
the connection between sister and the ring was not established that it was on her physical body.
It was with him. No, it was
It
with
was
him.
with whoever grabbed her.
Yes, and that's enough connection. I feel like to get a clue, so I feel like it's a viable breadcrumb trail.
So
to
here's
follow.
here's my question. I need a clarification on was, if the ring was not with sister, it did not give her the ability to breathe underwater.
We don't know.
and
we
it
don't
wasn't
know.
established
We don't
that
know.
she was underwater. It was just that she was grabbed. That was pretty
Yes.
much a basic.
Right,
Understanding,
but
so-
there's way too many unknowns to be all willy nilly with the past.
We're just guessing. I'm
yeah.
just trying to find a breadcrumb trail. That's it.
Yeah, let's seek out the breadcrumb, and I'm going to bring Shao into our mind melt and ask him if he can go in time to show us a better picture of the ring, because my memory is a little hazy on what it looked like exactly.
So you could, like, all of those things can be done without even having to have Shao use temporal magic, because the mind link allows you to access the memories of those who are consenting for you to access their memories. They're not resisting. So you could basically rewind in whoever's brains and look at this from their perspectives, their memories at the time. And you could pause, and you can, and then Durant, through the mind link,
Shit, yeah.
can see the same thing that you guys saw. So you don't actually have to spend any more qua or use temporal magic to just look back at when you inspected the ring, when you attuned to the ring.
Do I have
When
to
you
roll
could-
again to bring Shao in?
Nope.
I
Oh, yeah. Well, he wasn't in the mind link with you and Durant.
yeah.
Right.
You don't have to roll. You just have to burn a qua to add in another person.
Okay.
Okay,
Got it.
so could I go far back enough in time when they actually physically put it into, or where it originated before it got into the box? Knowing that it was deposited in the box, can I track
Well,
back further?
So to me, that's a different thing, because
Okay.
now
Yeah.
it's not accessing your memories or a point at which the ring was there. So
Okay.
for that you would need spatial magic, temporal magic,
Okay.
and material magic.
Right. You can only
Because
go
you'd have
back
to
in
have-
your own timeline.
You're
You can't
basically
go in-
you're not looking
yeah.
at a person's brain or their perceptions, their memories. You're looking for an object. So effectively locate object, right?
Sure.
Across an entire planet. And
Back in time.
And
and
time.
back in time. So you're talking about a combo effect that would require high levels of spatial material to find the ring itself, and temporal.
We could do that. We have allies. We were doing it yesterday, just with a person.
Now, if you had the ring on you and you wanted to know the history of this ring, that's different, because then you're in possession of the ring.
Okay.
That wouldn't be spatial because you have it. It would just be material and temporal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you wanted to touch the history of any object, you would just need the high enough material and temporal magic to know its history. But
Interesting.
that's something that you could do in time with the combination of
Magics.
those magic types. Now, I'll also remind you of this. When you asked in the previous episode, when you asked Humphrey and Riff to find your sister, that the combination of magic that they used
Mm-hmm.
was huge. They
Yeah.
used mental 4, spatial 4, and then Riff brought in spiritual 4. And they still couldn't find her. But remember what Humphrey said. He said he wasn't so sure that they couldn't find her because she was dead, but maybe there was something protecting her from being found using those specific methods.
Yeah, that's why I want to focus on the ring, because that could be another.
I'm okay with that. I mean, that's what I'm. You know, if
So
I
who
need
has
to.
the highest spatial magic?
Well, we would need to bring in the other people like we did yesterday. We got to link up and ask them if they would help us.
Because we also didn't discern the distance, right? So maybe a distance thing. Now that we're in Emron, it gives us a little bit more distance to where we need to project on.
That's an unknown. It's an unknown factor so far.
So you're basically, instead of searching for your sister, you're trying to find the ring.
Mm-hmm.
So material, spatial. How much spatial do you have, Durant?
1.
I posed to Durant, could we ask for Humphrey's help again?
Okay.
We could try.
So
as long as it's not past 9 o'clock.
Shao, add in one more qua. And you ping Humphrey. Humphrey joins the mind link. Oh, hey, Durant. And Cade and Cade's brother.
And Cade's other brother.
He says, fortunately for you guys, it's only 8 p.m., so I haven't gone to bed. But I should forewarn you that I've had 3 bottles of red wine, and it's been delicious. What can I help you with?
I think Durant has a feel on this.
Well, we are wondering if we can locate an object from a memory.
An object? Fortunately, I have material magic 4, spatial magic 4, and energetic magic 4.
I will share the image of the ring with Humphrey.
Oh, and now we're using our mental magic, which I also have. 4. I guess I can help you.
You really, truly are the greatest wizard in the lands.
Okay, all right. Since you're laying on thick, I'll interrupt my feast and only roll a 16.
Can I aid him in any way with my 3s and some of
Could I aid him as well with maybe a mark of rebirth effect?
Yes.
No.
Damn it.
Damn.
That only works on you for your magic.
I tried. I wanted to try.
I mean, that's valid.
Can I inspire him with my manipulation of social, my social manipulation?
Ooh.
No.
Damn it.
Durant, what level of spiritual do you have?
I have 3 spiritual.
Does anybody have higher than a 3?
No.
Humphrey says, Riff does. Cho, minus off another qua.
Let's go. Just bring everybody over
Let's
here. Come on now.
Freaking go.
He can even travel to us. I mean, come on now.
If he felt like it, but it's almost bedtime.
Okay, Riff.
Shall I contact Father while we're in here?
Yeah, right. Right.
Right, Riff got a 22. So, here's what happens. Humphrey blows a bunch of qua, Riff blows a bunch of qua, and together, accessing your memories of the ring so they know what it is specifically, and Riff's knowledge of spatial, spiritual, and temporal magic, coupled with Humphrey's knowledge of spatial, material, and mental magic, linked in with all of you. Oh my God.
Just say it happens.
He says, I think I found it.
Oh shit.
it's made of the same material as the waypoints, as the discs. Durant. It's made of the same materials, and it's got some kind of writing on it.
Correct.
It's in a box on a ship way south of where you guys are. And then, just because he's extra, Humphrey projects a map of Nisia into your brains and points out that the ship is west of the island of Kuop-Vogam. And then he zooms out, because he could do that with stupid spatial magic. And you see the ship is a Sacuran warship.
Enhance. Oh, what the? Shit.
And you see two banners. The first banner, the flag that's the largest at the top, is the fleet representing Admiral Guanzu. And the flag underneath it is a red flag, solid red, with a black skull and two black crossed blades. And when you see this mental image that Humphrey is sharing from you from his scry points looking at this ship, you see that the blades are Sacuran swords. There's a longer katana and a shorter wakizashi. And you see the crew on this ship, and it's nighttime. They're sailing at night. There's moonlight. You see the crew on the ship working, and Humphrey kind of pans his scrying spatial camera around the ship, and it's a huge ship. Like, this ship would destroy pretty much anything that it comes across. Like, it's bigger than the Expeditious Retreat by far. And then you see.
Don't fuck with me.
You see fog. You see fog, like out of nowhere, surround the ship and become so dense that you can't even see the ship.
They're on to us.
Someone sensed it.
Found us.
Yeah.
Humphrey quickly pans the camera around, looking for the ship. He goes into the fog. The ship's not there.
Shit.
Did Durant perceive?
Look at Bill. See, Bill.
I see Bill. Someone caught on to what we were doing.
In the glimpse of the ship, did Durant perceive anybody on the ship?
Yes. So the crew was of 50-50. No, not 50-50. I would say about 50% Sacurans, 30% a mix of different people from Arakazine, like some Iraqis, maybe some Suinized, and then like a handful of Boreans. So it was kind of a mix.
Okay. Did anybody look particularly magical?
Not on the deck, no.
Okay.
Like, they look like normal crew members.
Or spiritually inclined?
I would say this. I think it would have been reasonable that you would have seen the Admiral, because he would have been on the deck before this happens.
Since we were all attached, did we see anyone that we saw on our original voyage?
Recognize anybody?
Oh, from like your ship? No. But you do see there's a helmsman steering the ship, and you see standing near the helmsman, like, with a commanding presence. You see an older Sacuran man, likely in his 50s, with like long white hair and a long white mustache, like Fu Manchu style, like hanging down to like his chest, with weights at the end of them, like, so they're kind of like flowing back and forth, wearing like black armor, like black, like leather studded armor, and he has like a huge like cape that looks like it's made of like fine silk with like silver threads.
Would we recognize this as Sacuran military or pirates at all?
You've never come across pirates, but you would recognize it as, it would be like Sacuran military that you would see in a museum. Like, not what you guys remember the military wears currently, but maybe a very older style of uniform that would have been worn by an officer, maybe a naval officer from one of the Sacuran naval forces, but like a very dated version. Do you know what I'm saying? It'd be like if you brought somebody from World War II wearing a World War II uniform to like now, you would be able to tell that it's kind of an older fashion. That's what his outfit looks like. And he has a big two-handed sword strapped to his back and two shorter swords, one on each hip. And he's not a big dude. Like, he's got a burly build, but his height, he's like probably only like 5'6". And that's who you saw standing next to the helm.
Any symbols of any significance that I could have picked up?
The symbol, like, you're fairly certain that the guy that you just saw before it disappeared in the fog was probably Guanzu himself. Because Captain Elysia had told Cade how Guanzu was one of the founders of the Admirals. That he was a Sacuran naval officer who basically went pirate when he went to Nisia. She didn't know like his whole story, but she said that he's been around this region for 25 years. So you're guessing that the man that you saw with the long white hair and the white mustache might have actually been Admiral Guanzu himself.
Any significant like symbols on the weapons, or like what are the weapons made of?
All the weapons seemed like normal, but definitely more Sacuran in style. Like his short swords had like a slight curve to them. The big two-handed sword had like a really long handle, and it also had a curved blade, like a large two-handed Sacuran sword.
By the way, while we're all linked up, does Durant see that compartmentalized set of information that Shao set aside?
No. Well,
okay.
Does Durant want to see it? Because if so, let's make a contested roll of willpower.
If Durant sees it, he'd poke it, but if he doesn't see it, he'd leave it alone.
That's some buried deep down level shit.
Okay, that's fair.
So one thing too, I guess because you were on the mind link, you would have seen when Humphrey initially found it. So it wasn't on the deck. It was in a box in a cabin. No one was in the cabin. So like, Humphrey's in there, scrying in there. He sees the ring in a box in someone's room. And then he kind of zoomed out and showed you the ship. You saw the flags, you saw Admiral Guanzu, you saw the crew, and then you saw the fog, and then it disappeared.
Could we tell if it was basic quarters, like from someone traveling with them, or if it was like a captain's quarters?
It looked like it was a single private room, but it didn't look big enough to be the captain's quarters. But there was only one bed. Unlike, crew rooms, which have like 4 bunks per room.
What were the materials in the room like?
There was like an armoire for clothes. There was a bed. There was a nightstand, candle, and there was a long mirror. And all of this stuff is like bolted to the floor. You know what I mean? Like to keep it from sliding around. There's a long mirror.
Did we see any clothing laying on the bed or on the floor?
The bed was very neatly made, as if perhaps not slept in or used. So Humphrey's like mystified by this. He's like, huh. So they just teleported that whole ship somewhere. He's like, I'm fairly certain that they figured out that they were being watched.
Can I ask a silly question?
Sure.
Would Durant, knowing that it was made out of the dull gray metal, would anybody in this party line been able to pick up the metallurgy of the metal that somebody touched it, and they can pinpoint that person in this whole and see who was in contact with this object?
You know, that's a funny question, Durant. I don't know if you've ever touched history, if you've ever done like a combo of temporal and material to figure out the history of the discs.
No, the closest we've ever come is like look at the history of things that have happened around a disc, but we haven't actually looked at like the history of like the disc itself.
That's something you can put in your notes for like when you guys go back to Sassalem, and maybe you can reunite with Riff and Humphrey and try to do that.
Interesting.
That'd be an interesting, yet another interesting way to break my world. All right.
Is there a way to determine chain of custody through fingerprints or anything like that?
CSI, bro. CSI. It's the first thing I thought of.
The thing is, like, I haven't said no. I haven't said no. I'm just saying it would take some thinking through and effort.
Serious, specific comboing.
To collectively craft the magic ritual, basically, in order to figure out how to do that and then to actually pull it off.
We're gonna piss the gods off at some point.
Sometimes
this is not natural.
How do you know that I don't have a running tally of that already? I mean,
sometimes a ritual will transform a person.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen, I mean, the gods brought Durant here, so like there has to be a reason for that.
So the question still lies. Was any of this being able to be picked up to really like give us a better direction of who had possession of the ring?
Well,
and we would have seen it.
We saw
like all this stuff.
You found the ring.
Sure.
On Admiral Guanzu's ship.
Yes.
And Humphrey's spatial magic was able to determine that it is west of Kuop Vogam, which is where that's the island that the admirals rule.
No, I get that. But I mean, if I physically touch something that's magical, does it give me some resin like magical on my beam?
Things, yes. So magical things typically have a resonance. It depends on what their magic is.
Okay.
So if it is something that uses energetic magic, it would have an energetic magical resonance, which you can detect if you have that magic type at the most basic level. Like even if you have one point in that magic type, if you activate that and you burn Qua, you can actually detect the resonance of that. So when you're looking at an object that you know basically the equivalent of like a detect magic or an identify spell, that's kind of how it would work. Now, if it's a magic type that you don't possess, then you're not necessarily going to be able to learn anything about its resonance.
Would anybody in this party line would have picked up on that and been able to hone in on the person that would have touched this object?
I would have to ask someone with more magical knowledge than me, because I've actually held the ring in my hand, and I have energetic magic.
So can we correspond his touching it and to the person that's on that ship that touched it have a correlation where we would have seen them?
I'd have no basis for understanding any of that yet.
All right, so let me think through this. Cho, you want to think about, from your recollection and an interaction with the ring and attunement of the ring, if you're thinking about
what type,
how it actually works, right?
How it works, yeah.
So you would need to have, actually, yeah, you could do that. You have corporeal magic.
I do.
Burn 4 more Qua. Where are we at now? You getting low?
Yeah. Not super low yet, but
keep going. Burn it all.
I am
Fuck
I'm currently at 24.
Okay, so you're recalling your experiences with the ring. Its magic is effectively a corporeal effect, because what it does is it allows the person wearing it and using it to breathe water. And how it does that is a ongoing corporeal effect that basically allows them their physiology. It modifies their physiology so that they could breathe water.
Does it actually form gills, or is it just they inhale water and it turns to air?
Yes. They don't form gills. They basically can breathe water. Like their lungs can derive oxygen.
Can pull the oxygen
water.
out,
yeah. Which, since you have corporeal magic, I think you would also be able to figure this out. Make a perception plus magic roll.
Ooh. 10.
There's another byproduct of that, which is if their lungs are now filling with water and their physiology is able to derive oxygen to keep them alive while their lungs are full of water, that may also change how far below they can swim. In other words, like how pressure impacts their body.
Do I know if that means that they would have to stay shallow, or if they could go to the depths? I think that if they went too far down, they would implode.
Right. If they went too far down, yeah. But you feel like they could still swim pretty far down. Not necessarily just shallow, but they could probably swim pretty far down without being completely crushed by the pressure.
We're still on the party line while this is happening, right?
Sure.
Because Durant is going to think, like, I wonder if Cho's understanding of magic would be enough to reverse that and make it so someone putting the ring on would instantly implode or, suffocate on oxygen.
Reverse the magic.
That is dope.
That's so crazy.
You, Durant, have not experimented with changing enchantments. What you have gathered thus far, though, is that the gifts that you all received from the Sleeping King who dreams, that enchanted items take a lot of investment to make. Like you have a lot of things that go into enchanting the item and then making the item so that it becomes its own enchantment and sustains itself and basically develops its own qua pool. Requires a ton of time, mastery of the spheres in which you are trying to manipulate the item and enchant it, and then a ton of qua over an extended time to basically create it so that it draws its own daily qua pool to fuel its effects. That is something that you guys have never experimented with.
It's something I'm gonna experiment with soon. Start on.
So you, Humphrey and Riff, basically say, okay, well, that was interesting. Good night. Have a nice sleep.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining us.
Be well, brother.
You as well.
And Humphrey, do something, I guess. Maybe retire.
Yeah. So you guys kind of finish up. You leave the shrine. You lock the door. Do you want to find somewhere to stay? Now, remember Captain Bjorn told you that his men, after they unloaded the ship, they were gonna, come to shore for the night and then leave for Drak the next morning.
Yeah.
So there's only 2 inns in this village. So you walk to one of them and you don't find them there, and then you walk to the other one and you find them at the other one.
I think we
inquire
should
about
stay
rooms.
with them and leave to Durak in the morning, for they have
Yeah.
larger temples and things.
Do they have rooms, Bill?
Yes. The four of you can basically get a shared room. The rest of the rooms are taken up. So
Yeah.
you go in, you get something to eat. Captain Bjorn sees you. He, asks, or rather confirms, like, are you planning on going with us to Drak tomorrow? Okay. So his men, they've all eaten already. They're drinking and then they're going to sleep. Is there anything else that you guys want to do while you're in the village of Amron before you go to bed?
Just in the room, I'm gonna basically blow the rest of my quad, sitting in a corner and focusing on my skin, I guess, if you will. And you probably see Cade like muttering words, not like confidently, but he's like working through things, and you might see his skin change into different colors, trying to harden or be more elastic, and he's trying to make himself more durable.
Okay.
He's trying to like work through a new spell, essentially.
You feel like your brother Shao, in his martial arts concentrations, has an understanding of this.
Okay.
And through corporeal magic can effectively grant you this knowledge.
I asked for my brother's help then.
Okay, so assuming that Shao takes, some time, he begins to show you this. He explains how he manipulates not just the skin, but the organs to be more resilient to, concussive, kinetic kind of attacks.
Yeah.
And you practice this with him. You blow through a bunch of qua.
Yeah.
You will continue practicing this. So we'll say this is one session of practice wherein you blow through 12 qua over the course of a couple hours before going to sleep.
Yep.
Then you guys go to sleep.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right.
I was going to say, before I go to bed, I want to meditate on Father and try to reach him through my mind.
Oh
shit.
Oh, I forgot about
shit.
that. Okay, so this is a mind link with a family member who you know well, and it's a spell that you know well, but it is over a great distance. So go ahead and make your roll. You're going to want to have a really high roll.
That's not good. Great distance, he said.
No. 19.
19 is more than good enough. You do not link up with your father.
Oh, shit.
Your father's mind cannot be found to you. Too bad you don't have 4 in spatial magic, because then you could just scry him, find out where he is.
I'm sorry, brothers. I was unable to reach Father.
Durant's a little worried after, that ship just kind of disappeared after they were found. So Durant is going to use whatever means necessary to try and protect the room that they are in for the evening.
Oh. And
Unfortunately, there are not too many magics that are available for Durant to do this. 3 mental, 3 spiritual, 1 spatial, 1 energetic, 3 corporeal.
Would you like to maybe use your spiritual magic to find a local spirit to act as a sentinel and keep an eye out for bad guys?
I would like to do that.
Okay.
And can I offer... I don't know how to access it yet. Never mind.
Go ahead and make a roll, Durant. Willpower plus magic.
17.
You find a very accommodating spirit who is willing to help you. You're fairly certain that this spirit will keep an eye out throughout the night and awaken you if any potential threats come to your location.
Noted.
Okay, so you guys go to sleep. The next morning, you wake up feeling refreshed. Your pool has been restored. You go downstairs, you have some breakfast with Captain Bjorn and the men from the ship, and you pay your tabs. It is a whopping 4 silver pieces per person. Then you walk down to the docks and you start going to the ship, which is out in the harbor. And Captain Bjorn and his men all get on the ship with you guys. And you begin sailing west along the route. West and a little bit south, you see the village of Amron pass by. And an hour later, you come upon a small village with an even smaller harbor with only 3 docks and a few fishing boats. And you drop anchor, and the same process basically happens. Captain Bjorn sends a few men to the docks to locate the harbor master, and they conduct business, and then more laborers begin coming with boats to unload the ship. Captain Bjorn tells you that it's probably going to be another day here before they head back to Sassalem, because by the time they unload everything, if they left in the middle of the day to go back to Sassalem, they'd be sailing at night, and that's not very safe. So he's going to stay here for the rest of the day, and then they'll leave to go back to Sassalem in the morning. So it is like 10 a.m. and you guys arrive at the village of Drak. Now, this village is not much bigger than the village of Amron. It has a small harbor, as I mentioned, but it does have a wooden palisade built around the village, around the main part of the village. You do see that there's what look like farms kind of out in all directions from the village, like west, northwest, northeast from the village. And you see some foothills and small mountains to the north of the village. So it looks a little more developed than the smaller village of Amron. And there are a few, 2-story buildings, mostly 1-story buildings in the village. As you disembark from the ship and you start walking into the village, you see that there's plenty of people working. It's mid-morning. There's people walking the streets and kind of doing their tasks. And as you head kind of north into the village, you see at the northern end, kind of where the road leads almost out of the north gates towards the mountains, you see a compound. Basically what you see is a walled estate, like a 10-foot tall stone wall with a large manor, like a house, and then you see a tower also on that property.
Before we leave the harbor, I take a mental note of their harbor master as well.
Okay. And that is what you see in the village of Drak. There are 2 guards standing outside of the gate of this compound.
I approach them.
Okay, they look at you.
Do they seem the same way that the cleric or the person at the temple kind of had that odd look when they first see us or see me?
No, this one's clearly more suspicious and maybe racist. You're not sure. They both look at you guys as you're approaching. They see Durant, and then they see the three of you, and their hands kind of just go to the hilts of their swords. And one of them says, "What do you want? What business do you have here?"
We deal in the business of information, and I indicate the symbol on my shield.
He is either unimpressed or ignorant. He looks at that and he says,
Okay.
"What
fuck
business
this.
do you have?" He says, "What business do you have with House Draka?"
Mind control.
Okay, go ahead and make a roll.
That would be. I'm gonna try to get both the guards too.
All right.
15.
Okay, so that is 3 steps over what you needed. But the qua cost is, so how much are you boosting the impact? Like, in other words, how much do you want to add to your willpower roll to overcome them? 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, I'll go full 3 on that.
All right, so that's 3 for impact. 1 for range, 2 for area of effect since they're standing next to each other, so that's 6. And then how long do you want this to last?
I'm just gonna try and make them forget that we were here. So like, I don't know that it needs to last that long.
So at least long enough for you to get in the gates and walk past them.
Yeah.
So let's say a minute. All right. So you had enough overages to boost that spell, so it cost you 4 qua. Now make your willpower roll, straight willpower roll, or sorry, roll 3d4 plus 3 first to tell me how much your willpower is getting boosted.
11.
Okay, so now make your willpower roll.
Oh, sorry, wait, that was 3d. So I got
3d4 plus 3.
Okay, yeah, 11. 11
Okay.
is correct. Yeah.
So don't even bother rolling willpower, because even if you roll all ones, you still would beat their roll. So you mind control them. They kind of look blankly at you. What do you say?
You will allow us to pass, and you will forget that we ever passed through these gates.
Superb. Your Jedi mind trick is successful. They open the gates. You guys walk through. They close the gates. You find yourselves inside of this walled compound. Beautifully landscaped. Gardens, like trees. There's a few like fruit trees, fig tree, apple tree, that kind of stuff. You see like a little pond with like flowers all around it and some shrubberies. And up this crushed stone path that leads to the manor. And then to the left of the manor, kind of in the center of the compound, is this 3-story tower. You see some gardeners actually working, like you know, pulling weeds and trimming things. And they kind of like look at you guys, but they don't really do anything.
When I see Durant do this to the guards, it impresses me so much that he's able to do this that I want to attach myself to him as a Padawan learner and learn how to do the mind control myself.
Fair enough. Where are you guys going now?
Brothers, I think we should find the local magistrate or whoever keeps records of who owns land around here.
That's a good idea.
You see a man that is well dressed, wearing a like a suit, basically of kind of a linen suit with like a shirt and a vest and nice pants and nice leather shoes. And he walks out from the front door of the manor, and he has some kind of book, and he's not even like looking at you at first. And he kind of looks up from his book towards the groundskeepers, and then he looks at the 4 of you, and he says, "Excuse me, I'm the steward of this house. Do you have an appointment with Lord Draka?
Mind
No
control.
appointments this morning.
Mind control again.
Okay. Same thing. Make the roll.
All right. So that's 17.
Yes.
All right. And I will say to him, I believe if you check your appointment book again, you will see that we have an appointment.
Roll 3d4 plus 3. Ooh. Right. Roll your roll. No, don't bother rolling. He can't possibly beat that. So he looks at his appointment book and he says, "Ah, yes, indeed, I was mistaken. Right this way." And he just starts walking. You guys follow him into the manor house?
Yeah.
It opens to a large foyer. There's like tables that have like decorative, like sculptures and decorative glass things on them. There's paintings on the walls. There's a hallway that leads to the left, and it opens up into double doors. And you could see that the room beyond must have windows because it's very lit, like well lit from natural light. And he turns and starts walking towards this room. When he enters the room, he says, "Lord Draka, your appointment." And he bows. And you hear a voice that, like, you're behind the guy, so you haven't quite entered the room. You hear a voice say, "But I have no appointments this morning." He's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Who is it? And you hear somebody getting up from a chair.
I try to fumble through the mind control ritual and inform Lord Draka that we are great allies of his and he wants to share all the information with us.
Okay. Make a willpower plus magic roll.
It should probably be at a disadvantage because I don't know actually how to do this yet.
There's no disadvantage.
So I just roll 8 die no matter what.
You're gonna roll willpower plus magic. Tell me what the result is.
20.
Okay. So you now will roll 3d4 plus 3 and tell me what that result is.
$11.
That's kind of close. Now make a straight willpower roll. Tell me what that result is.
How do I do that? Just
roll 4 die.
Willpower.
Okay. 8.
So 8 plus 11 is 19, which definitely beats his 11. He looks at you and he says, "Oh, well, great allies of House Draka, welcome. I am Lord Ernest Draka." And he bows to you. And you see, as you guys enter this office, it's a large kind of rectangular room on the corner of the house with windows on 2 walls that are just letting in light. There's like a seating area with couches and upholstered chairs and like a coffee table that looks like maybe that's where people meet. And then on the other side, you see is kind of more of an office where he has like a desk and he has built-in wooden bookshelves behind him full of books. He stands up from his desk and walks over and shakes your hand and he says, that'll be all. Thank you. And he dismisses the steward, who then turns.
Durant will say to the steward at this point, "Also, we were never here."
Yes, of course. And he turns and leaves. Lord Draka looks at you and he says, "So, how may I be of assistance to my good friends and allies?" The man that you see before you looks like he's maybe in his 60s. He's an older man with kind of dark hair on the top, but gray on the sides, and he has a mustache that's kind of salt and pepper gray. He is well dressed.
Well, brothers, how should we approach these questions?
Well, we really need to introduce ourselves as lords ourselves, right? We're Lord Zens.
Well,
you know, I mean,
You don't need to introduce yourself at all. Just control his
he already
mind.
thinks of us as a great ally. We just need to ask questions.
okay.
Yes.
I mean, Cho is in control of his mind right now.
Yeah,
Cho can just ask questions.
True.
And he's going to answer them.
He's
So
just
what
patiently
questions do we
looking
want to
at you
ask?
guys.
Yeah, ask all the right things.
I'll start with this. Are you familiar with Sacurans?
I am not, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here, and as my friend and ally.
Absolutely. What are your political beliefs?
He says, I am a feudal lord. My family, House Draka, originated in the ancient kingdoms, and my father first came to this chain of islands decades ago. We established our manor here about 30 years ago, and have since my father's passing, I have resided here and maintained our village, as well as the lands and the residents of the island of Amra.
Can we tell if he's Iraqi?
He looks like he is Iraqi, yes.
And then I'll ask him, who are our other allies?
He says, well, my noble house holds the claim to the island of Amra. House Draka also has family holdings in the ancient kingdoms on Arakazine.
Excellent. I asked the brothers and Durant if they have any specific questions.
I do.
Says, we do conduct small amounts of trade from time to time with some of the houses of the crown of Kamamep, although we do not have a significant harbor, so our seafaring trade is somewhat limited, but we have as of late been able to trade some of our agricultural crops and a small portion of the ores that we have in some of the operating mines here on the island.
Then I'll just plant an idea in his mind that when the brothers Zhen come calling to open trade routes, he will want to do business with us.
Yes, that would be fantastic. I'm not sure what we could trade in kind, but I'm sure that I would be happy to review my portfolio of the yields, the crop yields of our farms, as well as the ores that we produce from our mines. Yes.
And brothers, the floor
We
is
have
yours.
we also do have a burgeoning community of craftsmen, furniture builders, coopers, cartwrights, wheelwrights, that sort of thing.
You want to take it, Shao? Or Joe?
No, let's find out our establishments here on this island. So
Yeah, I mean,
let's-
that's what I was going to ask about. Did you want to take that
no, it's all you.
stage?
You're good. No, you're good.
Okay. About a year ago, do you recall that our family was supposed to come here and establish holdings that we had purchased here?
He looks at you and he says, "No, I do not." A Sacuran family?
Yes.
Yes.
I step in and I ask.
Says, "I think, my friends, that I would have remembered such a thing." Says, "If you'd like, I can review my portfolio of the land and the division of land claims."
Our family made an arrangement with the Asari clan to have purchased holdings here on this island over about a year ago.
He says, "I am not familiar with that." And you have him in mind control.
Yeah.
He's not lying. He says, I've never heard of either of those names.
I wonder if the Sacurans are looked down upon by the nobles.
Well, he
I
is
don't-
the noble. He is the main person
Yeah.
on this island,
That's
so
why
he
I'm
would
wondering
know
this.
everything that if there was any
Yeah,
correspondence.
and if he's not lying,
Says,
then
would there have been any other names under which such arrangements would have been made? I could show
Lu
you.
Wei Zhen.
He says, one moment. He He walks over to his shelves and he pulls down 1, 2, 3, 4 books, and he brings them over to the table and he begins opening them.
How organized are these shelves, by the way? Do they need reorganization?
No, they're fairly organized. He seems to be very administratively organized, and he shows you basically maps and all of the records of the lands on the island. Like, you see every farm. Like, one book is just farms, another book is all of the mining claims, another book is grazing rights for livestock. Like, he has everything organized, and he's showing you all this, which includes the ledgers of the yields of those different things, like the crop yields for every season, like going back years. And at no point do you see a name that looks even remotely Sacuran.
Right.
You and also are they doing see, well for themselves? Are they fairly wealthy?
I mean,
for the size they are, they're doing good.
Yeah, okay, but they're not like
for the size of the island, yes, but it's not like they're rolling in cash. Like,
right.
You look at the mining claims, and most of them are for, like, the most valuable thing that they have is iron, and
okay.
You know, they have like copper and iron and some other
benefit from our silver.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like they have like a granite, you know, site, you know, so they're you see that they have a diverse portfolio, but nothing that's like just, you know,
no gold and diamonds and shit. Yeah.
And you see that, you know, as he's kind of going through all this, what he says is true. You guys are looking at the records. You don't see any agreements. You don't see any land sales with any people who aren't like part of the communities on this island.
I'm starting to feel we were duped from the start, brothers.
Something is not right. Did the Osari clan trick father?
I asked this.
Were we sent there on purpose to be attacked?
I asked him if he's familiar with the Osari clan.
He says, I am not, sir. I must apologize. He says, I do not mean to offend my new good friends and allies. But I have only heard of Sacurans from other larger islands.
Which islands specifically?
He says, well, it's rumored that some of the admirals on Kuap Vogam are Sacurans. He says, not to imply that all Sacurans are criminals. Please do not take it that way, my new friends and allies.
Understood.
He's like, I'm sure that you're very honorable, and I'm pleased to have you as my friends and allies.
I'm confused in hearing all this, and I'm just taking it in, and what Cade mentioned, like, really set in, and it feels like we need to time warp back and find out events that happened with Father. To like and recollect. I mean, can I recollect? Go back and recollect the whole meeting and the dinner and all that stuff to see if we missed anything that could be misconstrued.
You guys had paperwork.
Yeah, we had a deed.
You had a deed.
I remember.
And
bags of gold.
You see the same stamp of House Draka on all of his ledgers, in many cases, that you saw on the paperwork that your father showed you.
Do we have any of that paperwork?
Seal?
He says, my seal? Well, of course. And he goes over to his desk and he brings it over. Same seal.
And it's the same thing. Who else would have access to this?
Pause. Cho. Make a perception. Oh, I think it's time for you to finally use this. Make a perception plus crafting roll.
It's a copy. CSI.
10.
You aren't sure, but you think that if this if the stuff that you guys had, that your father was given, if it was a forgery, it must have been done by a master.
A master.
Because it is perfect. To your memory, it is a perfect replica of what you are seeing, including his signature, including the signature of Lord Ernest Draka.
Why
So
don't
I'm
you?
dealing with someone, so I might be dealing with someone that's just like me, except maybe more advanced.
Could you perhaps look into his memories and see if his mind has been or his
Altered.
memory's been modified?
The other thing I was going to suggest was perhaps you could show him the documents.
They don't have
In
them.
his mind, in
We
his
don't have
mind.
documents.
They don't have the
No, but
documents.
we've
They were
s-
lost in the shipwreck.
But I've seen them, and I can relay that image to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Check his memory if
Can I
you want.
say
Shao?
a working theory here? What if our little Stewart, we need to get him back in here and mind melt with him and find out what he knows, because as a steward, he might have access to this guy's seal, and maybe he created, orchestrated, or got influenced to orchestrate this shenanigans. And I'm more apt to have Durant, with his expertise and everything knowledge. Maybe he can pick up something with the steward while you are manifesting whatever you're going to manifest or achieve with this
Lord
Draco. Yeah.
I will connect the four of us to the steward and to the magistrate.
Okay, burn off 2 more qua. So Durant, you still have them mind locked. Like you had successes enough for you have control of both of them for an hour.
Well, I only have control of the steward.
Oh, sorry. You have the steward and the guards. So Cho, but you also had high enough successes where you basically pull them all together. You over the mind link. What are you trying to discover? Like, what are you asking or trying to reveal?
If there was,
Go
ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I want to, first of all, discover if the steward has good intentions for his boss or if he is doing underhanded things in general before I go deeper.
Okay, so he has good intentions for his boss. He's very loyal to House Draka.
Okay, now I'm going to implant an image of the seal and the paperwork that we signed and see if anyone has any knowledge of this.
Okay, you take that memory of the deed, the paperwork that your father showed you. Neither the Lord nor the steward recognize that.
Does the Lord deny that it looks almost like a perfect match for his
Oh,
handwriting?
he says by all accounts that looks exactly like the purchase of land and a deed for that land, as well as the other materials you share with my signature and my seal. It looks
Now I'd like to
exactly
dig
that.
around deeper in both of their minds and see if there's ever been a block put in or some type of
Now you have to make a roll.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, now make a willpower plus magic roll.
Is there any way that I can assist with this?
There is. You're in the mind link.
21.
Well, that'll do it.
Oh,
Son of a bitch. All right, so you're digging. And you dig back. Like a year and a half back. And you see in the memories of the steward that one night there was a knock at the door. The Lord had already gone to bed. The steward came down in his pajamas and opened the door to see a Sacuran man. The Sacuran man gazed in his eyes and did something with his mental magic and said, "Bring me to your Lord's office."
Do we see the image
Steward-
of the Sacuran man?
You do. The steward then brings the Sacuran man to the office, where the Sacuran man takes some papers and takes the seal, stamps some things with it in wax and on paper, puts it back, and then tells the man, "You will forget that I was here." And the steward forgets that he came. The Sacuran man that you saw in the steward's blocked memory was none other than
Father.
Lin Shu. Lin Shu. Lin Shu was one of the sailors that you befriended on the Celestial Queen.
What?
And Lin Shu did not survive.
Was that little family?
Son of a bitch.
Wait. Was that
Oh, he's a
no.
sailor.
No,
He's a
the
sailor,
family-
you just said.
Yeah, the family that you made friends with, who also drowned and died, that was Jin Quan.
Jin
Jin
Quan.
Quan and his family died in the shipwreck.
Lin
The
Shu.
only other survivors of the shipwreck, other than you guys, your mother, and a few of the crew members, were Min Zhu, who was the navigator, you may remember him, and Zhao Chen, who was the bartender and head cook. But Lin Shu did not survive the shipwreck.
Is this a memory that's being exposed to Durant potentially?
Yeah, you're in the mind link.
We're all in there.
So, can Durant actually see if the brother's memory has been modified to see if Lin Shu has perhaps survived, given that he has exhibited these powers?
The motherfucker's still on the island of Tizia.
You could do that, Durant.
I would like to do that.
Make me a roll. Willpower plus magic.
Oh my god.
20.
Okay, so Cade is the only one who saw Lin Shu drown. Because he was in dolphin form. And he had dark vision. So you saw Lin Shu dead, drowned.
But did he really?
Well, you're fairly certain that that is an accurate memory.
Okay.
So with that, you have some answers, but perhaps more questions. And we'll find out what the brothers Zhen and Durant discover on the next episode of High Adventure. Thank you, as always, for watching, for liking and subscribing, and stay tuned for more of the amazing adventures in this series. Peace.
Well, hello, and welcome to Bill Allen World. I am Wizzy, the Wizard. I'm back once again to remind you to subscribe and click on the notifications button, and also watch videos that are over there. Tune in to the next episode of whatever show you are just watching, and watch other shows featuring Bill. He made me say that, because he's a narcissist. Okay, bye.